let's take a moment to have a legitimate and honest conversation about the future of entrepreneurship and the value of experience. My friends over at NBC News report. By the end of 2023, while entrepreneurs come in all shapes, sizes, and ages, 35% of all entrepreneurs and small business owners are within the age bracket of between 50 and 59, followed by those who are between the ages of 40 and 49. In fact, 60% of all entrepreneurs who started a business last year were between the ages of 40 and 60, which laments the importance of maturepreneurs. With more people of elevated age getting into or reacquainted with the business community, it's important to be armed with both clarity, purpose, and direction so you don't get saturated in the market that you're attempting to enter. My friend Jannette Anderson has been in the field of entrepreneurship for over 40 years. She's launched, led, or mentored a total of 250 businesses or more throughout the course of her career. She's also spent nearly 3.5 decades in the field of personal development, helping entrepreneurs effectively manage the 4 inches between their ears. Believing that a clear mental mindset and makeup is one of the keys to businesses. She's also a fierce advocate for female success in entrepreneurship and fighting against ageism in business. Anderson says the key to being successful in business is having the appropriate clarity you need in order to make sound and fundamentally prudent decisions in business. Anderson joined me this week to have a comprehensive conversation about how women can continue to break down the barriers towards inclusion and acceptance in business, combating ageism, and so much more. She brought her wisdom of almost 4 decades to the table, and there are plenty of wise nuggets that anyone in entrepreneurship needs to hear. So without further delay, I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to dive into your experience in business. Thanks for a few minutes this afternoon, and it's delightful to see you, my friend.
Awesome and great to see you and be here. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, Jannette, I know that your experience in business spans over 4 decades, and you've launched, created, or mentored anywhere between 250 businesses, my friend. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to begin our conversation by asking you, what do you think is the key to business success? And I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about your own personal journey as well.
Well, okay, let me say I started my entrepreneurial journey very early because literally I was 5 and I really wanted the book Heidi. And my mom, I begged her and begged her and begged her, and one day she turned around and yelled, "We can't afford it." And I remember, Kevin, that day looking at her face and deciding, even though I was only 5, deciding that I never wanted to see that look of shame and frustration and anger and sadness on another person's face, especially another woman's face, because they had to say no to life, even if it was just a book that probably cost $1. And so, as kids, we don't complicate things. So I thought, no money, get money. Easy, right? So I decided I was going to have my very first business. And I had seen someone have a garage sale in our neighborhood. So I decided I was going to have a business and I was going to have a garage sale. So one day when mom was at work, someone was probably supposed to be watching me, but I hauled everything I could out of the house that we could sell, that I could sell. And I could count money before I could read, or probably before I could talk. And so I priced everything and I had a very successful garage sale. And when mom came home, I was so excited. I ran up to her and said, "Look, $13.72. I remember to this day, even though it was a long time ago, almost 60 years ago, I remember to this day how much money I made because I was so excited. Problem, solution, right? Well, that's not how my mom saw it. She was mad that I sold stuff from our house and did all this without her permission. And so I got spanked. She took away my money. I didn't get the book. I had to go buy back everything. The kids wouldn't sell me back my toys, so I lost most of my toys. So many people would say that's not a very good first entrepreneurial venture, but I learned 2 really important things. 1, don't go into business with family. And 2, don't that you can take your destiny into your own hands with business, that you can solve problems, you can have what you want, you can create the life you want if you use business as a way to create that for yourself and for others. And so even though it didn't work very well initially, I learned that lesson early and I've been an entrepreneur ever since then. Literally, I had lemonade stands when I was 7. I had my first business when I was 11 with an employee. I ran a daycare in our housing tenement, and I was 11, and my first employee was a 9-year-old I used to babysit, and we had up to 20 or 30 kids a day sometimes. So I've been entrepreneurial my whole life because I grew up poor. I grew up without any money, so I often had to work or use businesses to make the money I needed for school books or for clothes or anything like that. So I love entrepreneurship. I think it's a great way for people to not only solve problems, not only give their gifts to the world, but also be able to live their purpose and their passion. So I love entrepreneurship and I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. There's a few times where I forget and I go back into corporate and I think, ooh, stability of income and benefits and all those wonderful things. And then I'm there for about a year or two and I go, oh, I remember why I hate this politics and bureaucracy and BS, oh my. And I leave and go back out and start my company again. So I've had 4 versions of my company, all in the realm of marketing, sales, and strategy and business startup. So that's been my journey, is basically helping on most of my life. I've been helping entrepreneurs to grow their business.
Yeah, and I know that a big part of what you do is mentoring businesses. So, Jannette, I'm curious, how do you define an effective business mentor? And do you think it's related to business tenacity at all? Do you think those 2 things are interconnected?
Well, one of the questions you asked earlier is what's the key to success? And I would say commitment, tenacity. Sometimes we can be tenacious when we shouldn't be. We can hold on to something too long, even if it's a bad idea. But committed to the vision, committed to the purpose, committed to the difference that you want to make. That's absolutely essential for any business person at all, anywhere. I think in life in general for everyone, but for sure for an entrepreneur, because when your commitment starts to wane, that's when it's really hard to get out of bed in the morning. It's when it's hard to start doing those things that you don't really love. It's when if you're not all in, then the people that are coming to you are not going to be all in. They're not going to say yes if you're not saying yes. So I think the number one quality or characteristic of every successful entrepreneur I have ever met has been commitment. And if they lose their commitment, they recommit. and they recommit. And they commit because they have a really compelling why. I call it why, or purpose or mission. There's something that matters to them that is about the difference that they're here to make. And when you have that, it's much easier to stay in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And did I do you think that commitment and resilience in business are interconnected?
For sure. When stuff happens, as it always does, resilience is our ability to pick ourselves back up. Well, it's hard to do that if you don't have a reason to get back up. So that's where the commitment comes in, and the vision, the purpose. They all need to kind of be there for us to keep going when things get difficult, and or when things are successful, because that's when some people falter the most, is when things are going good, right? There's people who that's the challenge for them, not when they're struggling. So I think that for you, and certainly for any mentor or coach you hire, a commitment and a clarity about your vision, your purpose, your why, and resilience, which is really that inner ability to basically to say next, because resilience is what allows you to keep your equilibrium, keep your grounding, stay home with yourself when things are going on out there. Resilience is our ability to get back up. And that's so much easier when we have a support network like mentors and coaches, when we have a clear purpose for why we're doing it, and when we choose back in, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever you need to do.
Mm-hmm. I know that personal development is a big a component of your life mission and purpose as well. And I have to tell you, there is a motto, Jannette, that I live my life by, and I say that the only expectations you have to meet in life are your own, because it's hard to meet someone else's expectations if you don't have at least a fundamental understanding or a foundational understanding of how you want to show up from a personal development standpoint. So I'm curious to dive into the whole personal development conversation and ask you about how do you think people can continue to what I call level up in life from a personal development standpoint. What are your thoughts there?
That's a great question, Kevin, and I love that you've got the both sides of this equation. I've done personal development facilitation and coaching and so forth for about 38 years now. I took my facilitator training back when I was 21, and oh, so God, it's even longer. Anyways, I've been doing it for quite a while. Because for me personally, it was how I overcame a lot of the issues and challenges that I grew up with, lots of, violence and drama and trauma. And I think it's how we expand out into the fullness of who we are. So I think ongoing personal development is essential to being a really good leader, whether it's a leader in your family, in your community, in your faith community, in your business, or in the world. So, because those leaders who are not self-aware and who are not working on becoming better versions of themselves or more aware versions of themselves, more enlightened, are dangerous, because they're not very plugged into themselves and other people and humanity and so forth. So I think that ongoing personal development is essential for everyone, but especially for entrepreneurs who want to grow their business, because our issues become the business's issues. Our limiting beliefs, especially when you're a small solopreneur or a small business, if you don't get your own value, then your clients won't. If you have money scarcity, then you'll create it in your business. So my specialty, because I've done so much personal development and so much business startup, is helping people get the 4 inches between their ears working so the business can work. So I would say that having a successful business is both an inner and an outer game. And if you don't have some structure to support you with personal growth, so a coach that can work with you on the inner beliefs that you have that may be getting in the way, or a training program that you go to, like Creators Code or Landmark or Sage or any of those, there's lots that are great personal development programs. Then, or even if you're just reading personal development books, but it's better if it's experiential and lived, not just theoretical, then you're kind of missing out on how to be a better human being and how to deal with other human beings more effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jannette, for my next question, I'm going to use myself as an example. So outside of hosting this podcast, I do some motivational speaking to businesses about of the importance of hiring individuals with disabilities and the benefits that they can bring to the workforce. And I tell them all the time that it's a part of creating a great business recipe for success. So when I ask you about business inclusion, I'm wondering, what does that term mean to you, and what do you think folks with disabilities can add to the workforce?
Well, so part of my focus, I worked with a client for quite a while who was a professional speaker as well, who had cerebral palsy, and what we really focused with him on is his brand was around seeing past the dis to the ability that is there. So I think inclusion is really about how do you bring out and capitalize on the strengths that every human being has. Every person is a gift and a benefit, and you need to find what is the gift that they bring. What is the I call it their note in the choir that they sing, and the choir is not as sweet without that note. So I think inclusion is not about political correctness. It's about really understanding that we all have this note in the choir, and anyone missing, the song is not as complete or as sweet or as rounded out. So I think inclusion to me is the bigger our container, the more that we can hold. And every leader needs to work on expanding their context or their container, including being more aware of all of the isms, being more aware of our innate prejudice. Every person has prejudices, even if we think we don't. So we need to be aware of them and be mindful of them. I've been the subject of sizeism. I was denied jobs because of my size. Sexism. I was denied jobs and work because I was female. Now ageism is huge. That I'm literally invisible in the world, and you can tell I have blue hair and red polka dot glasses. I'm not a very invisible person. So I think part of what we really need to get is that any world that doesn't include everyone ultimately excludes everyone. And so that's what I would encourage people to really start looking for is how do we find and work with the strengths that every human being has?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm really excited to ask you this next question because it has to do with women in entrepreneurship and creating what you call bold businesses together. So tell me about your passion for women succeeding specifically in entrepreneurship and why do you think that's so important?
Yeah, so that's another great question. You know what? I'm kind of an accidental women's advocate. And what I mean by that is about 10, 11 years ago, I got this download during a meditation about this thing called Bodacity. And I wrote out 11 pages in my journal. It was all about shifting the world from fear to love, one happy and empowered woman at a time. And it sounded great. And it was about a mindset and a community and a global movement. It was very impressive and inspiring. And I literally closed the book, Kevin, and said, I don't know who you're telling this to or why, but this is not for me to do. And then I spent about 6 or 7 years in resistance, and the universe kept knocking, and I'd go, yeah, but I don't even really like women. Go away. And then I get the call again, and it'd be, but there's so many women's groups, back when there was 4, now there's 4 million. I didn't understand why women, why me, why now, until I went all in. until I finally said, okay, I'll do it. I'll go all in. And then I understood that the reason why women are being encouraged and asked and pushed to step up more into our passion, our purpose, and our power and our profitability is so that we can really partner with men. Men have been carrying the load for a long time, and women have been disadvantaged for far too long. We still only get up to 80% for the same job in a lot of situations, and down as low as 50%. So we still have a ways to go in terms of equality and equity, fairness. So I think women need to step up and into their power, not just to help create more equity in the world, but to create a new vision for doing business. Because however business goes, so does the world. And women are good at creating more collaborative approaches, co-creation, collaboration, co-opetition. And I think that that's the new direction that we can go in our world and in our business in order to create more equity. And that's what we need. So it's not about women becoming men. It's not about women taking over from men. It's not about men being wrong. It's just about we're in a system right now that doesn't work for anyone, including old white men. And so we need a new system. And that's why I think women are being called to step up and out. You know, Gandhi said, Western women will change the world. Well, I think that the only reason he said that was because Western women have more access to a voice and more access to resources and money. And it takes both to be able to change the world. So I think all women will change the world. We just happen to have more access to those two resources. So I would like to see all women have access to that. And again, nothing to do with men are wrong or bad. It's everything to do with women need to step up and be more profitable themselves, be more valued for who they are and what they bring, so that we can create real equity for a change. And women have the opportunity to really give their gifts to the world powerfully, because we have been playing small for too long and being made small for too long, and it's time for that to end. So again, this is not a feminist rant about men being wrong. This is about it's time for women to step up so we can partner together to make a better world and create a new business paradigm.
Yeah, so just one follow up on that. If I asked you to close your eyes and really reimagine the definition of women's empowerment in business, how do you think you would work to empower women and really reduce the barriers that women face in business?
So the question is, how would I support women in being more empowered now?
In reducing the business barriers that they face. Yeah.
Business barriers. Okay. It's a good question. It's a tough one. So I think the first barrier that every woman I have met has to overcome is the internal one. They've got a not enough story running, that they're not good enough, they're not smart enough, they're not educated enough, they're not whatever enough, that keeps them from stepping up and out more. So the first barrier they have to get over is the one between their ears. The second barrier is the one where we are trained in our culture to not be confident. We're told that, you should be seen and not heard. You should be, nice. And that translates into don't tell people about yourself. Don't be bold. Don't be unapologetic. And this is where we really need to learn from men, because men are much better at that. And we really need to see that being bold, being outspoken and offering what you have, being unapologetic, meaning really just getting your own value, isn't a matter of ego. It's a matter of just getting what is. And so women have to get over their fear of not being liked, of disapproval, so that they can just be seen and heard, and get that is actually an act of service. So the barriers that they have to overcome is internal, then kind of societal training about being nice, and all of those other messages. Then in terms of some practicalities, they do need to learn how to be more confident in claiming success. And that's, again, kind of an internal thing, but it's about also training yourself to be willing to be seen and heard. And for some people, that's a big leap. So those are the steps that I would say would be the most important for women to work on in order to be more empowered and especially effective.
Yeah, absolutely. No. Jannette, I want to share just one other story with you. So, at the end of, first of all back up. So, I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. It simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally, and I found out at the age of 9 that I wouldn't be able to walk for the duration of my life without assistance because of the severity of my cerebral palsy. And at the end of last year, I hired 2 business coaches, and one of them, his name's Joe Johnston, and he asked me if I wanted to bet on myself and whether I believed in myself and my internal motivation to be a successful speaker. Before I hired this business coach, the most I had ever gotten paid to speak was $1,250. And when I hired the business coach, the first year I hired a business coach, I made $15,000 in speaking revenue. So my question to you is, choosing the right business coach is crucial for success if you want to go down that route. So I'm wondering, what questions should entrepreneurs ask themselves before they hire a business coach?
Oh, that's such a great question. And congratulations on the success, not only of choosing how you're going to show up in the world and being consistent with that, and in spite of the obstacles and challenges, but also calling in support. Like, that is awesome, and that you chose someone wisely so that you could and applied what they taught you so that you could get results. That's so cool, because not everybody does that. A lot of people hire coaches and then don't do anything. They think that just hiring the coach is enough. You actually have to follow through and implement what you're doing with them. I actually created a free resource specifically for this. It's an ebook on exactly what questions you should ask prospective business coaches to help you decide on which one's the right one for you. I can give you the link for that, but it's basically Bodacity.ca for Canada and /biz, B-I-Z, coach checklist. And biz coach checklist at Bodacity.ca. That is an ebook full of questions that you should ask. Here's the things that I would really recommend. 1, will they push you? Because if you have a coach that has approval issues and they won't push you outside of your comfort zone because it makes them uncomfortable, then they can't help you. They can't help you grow. So they have to have done enough of their own work to not have approval issues that will get in the way of them truly being of service to you. Like, I tell my clients up front, look, if you're not pissed off with me at some point, I'm not doing my job. Because my job is to make you uncomfortable, because you're only uncomfortable when you're outside of your comfort zone, and everything you want is outside your comfort zone because you don't have it yet. So be willing to find a coach who will push you. 2, really check in. Are you willing to do the work? If you're hiring a coach just so that you can be seen to be doing the work, that's not going to get you results. 3, really, really commit, which means that, yes, you might have to swallow your fear and find a way to make a payment and make that leap to be uncomfortable to hire the right person for you. But like Kevin said, it showed up in terms of results right away. Well, maybe not right away, but within that year, because he did the work that his coach encouraged him to do, which it sounds like your coach helped you with both mindset and some of the practicalities. And then the other thing is, be really clear what kind of support you need. Do you want that internal shift? Do you need people who can help you with your mindset, your beliefs, that kind of thing? Or do you need people who are just going to help you with your practical externals? What do you need help with? And what's their level of expertise? You don't have to find a coach who's built $1 million plus business in order for them to add value. So make sure your criteria is really focused on what are the gaps that you have that you need them to help you fill. So those would be the things that I would, and I would also encourage you to check with their, get some social proof, testimonials, case studies. Those are helpful, but obviously they're going to pick the best ones. So see if they'll connect you with one of their clients so you can have an honest conversation with that client. What are they good at? What are they not good at? How are they on communication? Are they responsive? Those kinds of things. So, like any relationship, figure out what you want for you personally, what's important to you. Figure out what you want the relationship to accomplish for you, and then go check whether or not they are that person. Don't hire a coach because you're at an event and they sell you a package and you get excited and you run to the back of the room with your credit card. Hire a coach because it's the right longer term relationship based on your criteria. Not everyone has the same criteria. So make sure you have a criteria and you apply it before you hire someone. I get so many people who say to me, man, I wish I had met you $50,000 ago. And it breaks my heart every time, Kevin, because they're buying the wrong coaches or the wrong programs, thinking that this silver bullet will solve the problem. It won't. You need to do the work. So hire a coach that will make you do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are different ways to carve a business apple, isn't there?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And Jannette, I asked you earlier about diversity in the workforce for folks with disabilities, but I'm also interested in asking you about how do you think we can go about creating more diversity in business overall so that more people can succeed and eliminate the barriers to succeeding in business? So what do you think is the key to embracing diversity in business?
Well, that's a really great question. And it's something I'm really focused on right now, but in a particular kind of niche, which I'll tell you about in a second. First of all, like my earlier comment, when we get how interconnected we are, we stop with the us and them BS. So diversity is not about tokenism. It's about recognizing we're connected to everyone else and they are us and we are them. So let's just have a full expression of what it means to be a human being on this planet, including all different ages and genders and sizes and sexualities and colors and so forth and so on, because each of those is an expression of all of us. The second thing that I would say is really take a look at where are the hidden biases in your business and in your own mind. And I mean hidden because most people I think are good people. They aren't overtly prejudiced, but they have hidden biases. So there are some great books out there you can read, like White Fragility, other things. But one of the biggest biases right now that I am super passionate about solving is ageism. Because of course, as we change, so our demographic changes. So I am now really focused on supporting maturepreneurs. There are literally millions and millions and millions and millions, actually all close to 1 billion people in the world right now that are hashtag not done by a long shot and who either can't afford to retire or choose not to. Literally 747 million, I believe right now, people over 55 who cannot afford to retire. And then another several million that don't want to. And good luck getting a job if you're 70 in corporate, or good luck starting a business and getting a business loan if you're 68 or 82, or getting insurance. So there are literally 1 billion people coming into the marketplace who need to start businesses. And there is all sorts of societal condoned prejudices against them. So I think one of the things that I'm a passionate advocate for is diversity when it comes to age as well. These people are not done. They have 10, 20, 30, 40 years to contribute. And our old, outdated notions of you retire at 65 and you die at 75 are just not true anymore. People are living to 100 and beyond, and will do so more so as people are being born now. They're supposed to live to 120, 130. So we need to rethink how we treat maturepreneurs, and for that matter, everyone. But I am personally on my soapbox about maturepreneurs because I don't think there's anywhere near enough awareness around the problem, the scope of the problem. Like, if you were aware, 747 million people on the planet can't afford to retire. That means they either make a choice between rent or food. It means they, etc. So they have to start businesses. So if you think it's competitive now, just wait a few years. There's a lot of people coming into the marketplace, so you better get clear on who you are and how you're going to solve problems, because there's a big swing of competition coming.
And you don't want to get saturated, right?
Right. You want to welcome it and encourage it, and be really clear on how you can be successful in that even more competitive marketplace. And really, how can we be more and more aware of all of our condoned weird thinking around aging and ageism? It's really fascinating. I literally have been in a situation where I have been invisible. And I don't mean ignored. I mean, they literally did not see me, even though I was standing right there. That's a really weird phenomenon, but it exists. It's out there, and we need to knock that crap off.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you have created something that you call your Bodacity quotient, which allows people to make bold business decisions and really lean into their ability to be bold in business. So tell me about the Bodacity quotient and what it's all about.
Okay, well, it's something that I made up, but then again, someone also made up IQ and EQ. So, in IQ is your intelligence quotient, and that's important, especially in business. And your EQ is your emotional intelligence, and that's also important in life and in business. But neither of those really matter if you don't have a strong BQ. And BQ is your bodacity quotient. Bodacity is a word that is a real word. It means bold and audacious. If you are unwilling to take action, if you are unwilling to overcome your fear and make your next step or your next leap, then it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how emotionally intelligent you are. You won't take action. You won't get any results. So you have to have all three, because yes, you want to know things. You want to think things through. You want to be strategic. Yes, you want to have emotional intelligence so you can work with people well. You can be of service. You can truly be a contribution. And you got to have, I call it grabbing, for women, grabbing life by the ovaries and going for it. And for men, it would be, their balls. But basically, you got to have enough boldness in you to be willing to be crazy enough to be an entrepreneur, and to see where there is a problem and say, hey, you know what? I can solve that. Because that's really all an entrepreneur is. It's someone who says, there's a problem, there's a gap, there's a need. I can fix that. And that takes some boldness. So that's what your BQ is. And there are some very practical ways for upping it. Get support, get a coach, get someone who will challenge you, like your coach did, who said, hey, how do you think you can be that big, and what do you need to do to be bigger? And really, a big part of it is have a strong support network. It's easier to make leaps when we've got someone holding our hand and our heart. So I would say it really is a lot about, I'm trying to think of how to say it without swearing, because I swear a lot, but it's basically really about getting that only you can be the difference that you're here to be. And if you are not being that difference, then there are people who are not getting that solution that they need. So it is really important for you to get that you matter and live like you do.
Absolutely. And, I know that you're a big believer in taking consistent business steps and action steps in order to live a balanced and satisfied life. So tell me about how you think it's important to strike the balance between business and life success. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I would say I actually think balance is a myth because balance for a 20-year-old woman who's launching her career versus a 35-year-old woman with three kids under 8 versus a 52-year-old woman who's an empty nester. Those are all very different stages of life that require different kinds of work life combos, right? I am single, I live a mobile lifestyle, and I work all the time because I love it. And for me, balance is to have friends that I connect with, to play games once in a while with friends, to have dinner parties, to enjoy life. But it's not about, taking off 12 weeks a year for me right now. It will be at some point, and I have in the past, but right now, that's not what I would call balance. For someone else, it is. So what you need to find is where can you be your most effective self? And your most effective self is all of you. So effective at work, effective in your relationships, effective in your parenting, effective in your money. And for you, what helps you create that effectiveness? If you need more time off, more time to play, then that's what you need. If you need more structure to support you in building what you want to build, then that's what you need. So I think balance is different for every single person. You need to find what's going to help you be the happiest, most effective human being you can be.
Yeah, and Jannette, I've got two questions left for you. And the first has to do with how do you think women and female entrepreneurship has really contributed to the conversation of innovation in business? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think I kind of alluded to it earlier. I think a lot of what we do well is relationship and relationship building. I think you'll see or you've seen conversations in business shifting around more focus on relationships. It's less transactional, less about numbers, less about a bunch of outbound stuff. It's more about connection. It's more about relationships. And so even if it's just in the conversation, like if you scroll on Facebook, or at least on my Facebook page, there's lots of different posts about how do you build relationships on LinkedIn? How do you have more relationship-based networking? That conversation is one of the shifts that has happened because more and more women have been stepping into business and bringing that conversation with them. So I think that's one of the biggest changes is that we really are looking for what are some new ways that we can have a rising tide that lifts all boats. So it's stepping away from the competitive I win, you lose model and into more of a win-win. Now, that doesn't mean that men don't think about that as well, and there aren't men who create win-win scenarios, but there is a different paradigm in terms of that old power structure of, I win at all costs and you lose, and the structure now of if you lose, so do I. So how do we create a real win-win-win, win for me, win for you, win for our clients scenario? Those conversations are conversations that I think women are fostering more. And again, doesn't mean men weren't having those conversations themselves. It just means that that's more of our focus. And there are areas where we need to learn more from men and how they are in business. Like men are very externally referenced. They'll look at other people for comparators to how they're doing. Women are very internally referenced. And that screws us up because the bar is always out of reach. Always. You can never win. That's not a healthy, successful way to look at life. So we both can learn from each other. And I think women are creating the innovation of more conversations around how do we do business in a more relational way.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about relationships, and I'll end this way because I'm always curious to ask my guests who appear on the show about their own individual legacy. But I wonder if you think of your own individual individual legacy is creating relationships that matter both in business and in life. So I'll end by asking you how you want your own professional and personal legacy to be defined.
Well, I think, like probably every human being, I want to be remembered for being loving and making a difference to people practically. I honestly, Kevin, on my my tombstone, I really want my legacy to be she was useful. Because if I was useful, if I helped someone do something or achieve something or get started on something, to me, that's just the best thing in the world. Now, the expanded version of that is I am working really hard right now on building what I call the Maturepreneur world. So we're creating a network, we're creating an event, a podcast, a magazine, a university, a virtual university, all of these tools and resources for this largely invisible, overlooked, and undervalued market. That will be my true legacy. That we made a difference to thousands, if not millions, of people who still have so much value to give to the world and to the marketplace, and we help them be able to do that. That's the legacy I'm building right now that I'm
Yeah,
super excited about.
yeah, absolutely. And Jannette, finally tell me if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Okay, well, you can email me at Jannette at Bodacity.ca, Jannette at Bodacity, Bodacity.ca. That's also my website, Bodacity.ca. You can check me out at the Purpose and Profit Sisterhood Facebook group on Facebook if you're a woman entrepreneur, and or you can listen to the Maturepreneur podcast or the Purpose and Profit Sisterhood podcast on any and all podcast platforms. And I'm on LinkedIn and all social media, so you can just find me.
Fabulous. Well, Jannette, you're really a trailblazer in the fields of entrepreneurship and mentorship, my friend. I enjoyed engaging in conversation with you this afternoon. I want to thank you for all you do to move the needle of progress forward and for joining me this afternoon. It's most appreciated.
I appreciate you too, Kevin. I appreciate you having these kind of deep conversations and meaningful conversations with people because you're out to really help people understand more and be more inclusive. So I love your mission in the world and the work that you're doing. So thank you for that.